guys, it's Ms. Walker. I was going to make this video for you guys. This is the first video in the VMS strategies series. It is about the lattice method, which is a method of multiplication. So we're first going to go over a few things about the lattice method, and then we're going to go into how to do it. So first thing we're going to talk about is lattice method. What is it? What is the lattice method? Well, the lattice method is, I already said this, a type of multiplication. It's a type of multiplication. So when can you use the lattice method? Because just like everything else, there are some times when it's good to use it and sometimes when it's not good to use it. So when do you want to use the lattice method? You want to use the lattice method when you have whole numbers or decimal numbers. Nothing with a variable or anything like that. Right now we're just going to use it with whole numbers and decimal numbers. That's what it's best for. So why does the lattice method work? Why does it work? Well, the lattice method, what it does is it separates the places, and it will help you easily add them, which will give you your final answer. So what we do every time we're using the lattice method is we find our ones place, then we find our tens place, and our hundreds place, and so on and so forth. So it's easier for us to get the answer more quickly and more accurately. So why is it good? Well, it's good because you only have to add one time. In traditional multiplication, you have to add over and over again. You kind of have to keep a running track in your head. But with lattice, you only have to add once, which is great. You also don't have to keep track of everything in your head, like I just said. So, what do we need to do to make sure that we're doing the lattice method correctly? Well, to make sure we do the lattice method correctly, we first have to make sure that we have the correct setup. That's the most important part. The second thing you have to do is you have to add on the diagonal. Alright, now that we have talked about the lattice method, we are going to actually do a lattice method problem. So when you're using the lattice method, the first thing you need to do, step one, is to create your lattice. So to create your lattice, what you need to do is it's kind of like a box looking thing. So we have our problem, like let's say we have the problem 34 times 91. Okay, so for this particular problem, you can see I have 2 digits in this number and 2 digits in this number. So if I have 2 digits times 2 digits, what I'm going to need to do to create my lattice is I'm going to need to have 2 boxes on the top and 2 boxes on the side. So the reason I'm doing this is because I need a box for each of my digits. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my digits along the edge. So I have a box for my 3 and 34, I have a box for my 4 and 34, I have a box for my 9, and I have a box for my 1. So now that I have this sort of set up, I'm going to finish creating my lattice. So how you do this now is you split each of these boxes on the diagonal. So what a diagonal is an angle that goes, in this case, from corner to corner. So we're going to split it corner to corner here, and then again here. As you can see that we need to split it again all the way down. So corner to corner, split it down, corner to corner, and split it down. So this is creating a 2 by 2. So I've already said this, but I want to make sure we understand that because I have 2 digits by 2 digits, I'm going to need 4 boxes because 2 times 2 is 4. Pretty easy. So now, what if I had 3 digits, 317, times 2 digits, 21. 317 times 21. So I would need, in this case, 3 digits by 2 digits, so 6 boxes. So 3 boxes by 2 boxes, which would be 6 boxes. So, as you can see, I have 6 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to split them diagonally. Alright, so what I have here is I've moved my 317 times 21 lattice. I just moved it down a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do step 2, multiply box by box. So what I mean by multiply box by box is you see how this is a box right here. Well, that says a 7 on one side and a 2 on the other. So what that means is we're going to multiply 7 times 2. So 7 times 2 is 14. So I'm going to put my 1 up here, my 10, which is 110, and my 4 down here, 4 ones. 110, 4 ones, 14. So now I'm going to do 7 times 1, which is 7. That's 0 tens, 7 ones. 1 times 2, which is 2. That's 0 tens, 2 ones. 1 times 1, which is 1. 0 tens, 1 1. Then I have 3 times 2, which is 6. 3 times 1, which is 3. And that is how we multiply box by box. So I'm going to move this over to my next page so we can talk about step 3, which is add diagonally. Okay, so now we're moving on to step 3, which is to add diagonally. So diagonally, like we said before, means at an angle. So here what we're going to do is we're just going to add everything that's in between each of these diagonal lines. So here I have a 7. There's nothing else that's in the diagonal line with the 7, so the 7 is all by itself, just going to drop down. So here I have 4, a 0, and a 1. So I'm going to multiply, not multiply, you're going to add. I'm going to add 1 plus 0 plus 4. Well, 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5, so I bring down my 5. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 0 is 6. So I'm going to bring all this down. So my answer is 6,657. To make sure that you saw an example of how to use the lattice with decimals. So right here I have 3 and 2/10 times 1 and 97 hundredths. So really, if I look at this and I ignore the decimal, what this is a 3-digit number times a 2-digit number. So again, what I would do is I would need 3 boxes by 2 boxes. So 6 total boxes. 3 times 2, which is 6, 6 total boxes. So I would need 3 by 2. So again, I'm just ignoring that decimal. I'm going to say this is 197 and then 3, 2. So I'm going to make my lattice, okay? And now I'm going to multiply. I have 7 times 3, which is 21, 7 times 2, which is 14, 3 times 9, which is 27, 9 times 2, which is 18, 3 times 1, which is 3, 1 times 2, which is 2. Sorry if that was a little bit fast. I just want to get this over with. All right, so we have, now we're going to add on our diagonal. We did our first step, create the lattice. Second step, multiply box by box. And then third step is to add the diagonals. So again, this 4 is not added to anything. I just bring it down. 8 plus 1 plus 1 is 10. So I bring down my 0, bring up my 1. Here I have 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 plus 3 more is 13. Bring this up. So that 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 left over, and then nothing from there because that 0 would come down and it doesn't do any difference. So now we have the answer is 6. I almost put 6,000. 6,304. All right, but we don't want 6,304. That's not my answer. My answer, 6,304. What I need to do is I need to count how many were behind the decimal in my question. So there's 1 behind the decimal and then 2 behind the decimal. 1 plus 2 is 3. So I should have 3 behind the decimal. My answer should end up being 6.304. There are a few things you want to remember when you're using lattice method. So lattice method is a very, very good method for multiplying, like we said earlier, whole numbers and decimal numbers. So only use with whole numbers and decimal numbers. What that means is we don't want to use lattice method with a variable. Variables are those letters that we use sometimes in equations. We don't want to use lattice method with variables. It will not work well. We don't want to do that. It'll confuse us. Another thing that we want to remember is that if we do use this for decimals, like I just showed you, we want to make sure that we ignore the decimal until the last step and then put it in. So just pretend like they have that many digits in them normally, ignore the decimal, and put it in at the end. Last thing you want to do, or you want to know, is that even if you don't love lattice method, you can always use it to check your traditional multiplication. It's a really good way to check your traditional multiplication if you think maybe you might not have done it correctly, or even if you're really sure you did it correctly, you want to make sure that you check everything, because that's where we make most of our mistakes, is just that silly rushing through things. So thank you very much for watching the first VMS Strategies series video on lattice multiplication. Awesome.